Now, help me out, Blaster. Transform and play something nice.
And now, a nice and nifty musical selection for easy listening. Hold on to your dancing shoes and go, man, go!
One shall stand, one shall fall.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to One Shall Stand, One Shall Fall, a Transformers TCG podcast broadcasting live from an underground bunker in the middle of the murky Midlands.
I want to boot some Decepticon right in his turbocharger.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Calm down, Cliff Jumper. Wow. Seriously, put that gun down. You're going to kill somebody in this studio. Goodness. Right, anyway, I'm your host, Lee, from Bluetop Productions, and today I have a motley crew of people to talk everything about Transformers TCG. That's right, the trading card game based on the cartoon from the 80s. This podcast will talk about news about the Transformers the TCG, new releases, deck profiles, and stuff that's happening in the community. So, sit back, relax, and enjoy.
One shall stand, one shall fall.
What's up, guys, and welcome to another fantastic episode here on Bluetop Productions of One Shall Stand, One Shall Fall, the one and only... That's right, TCG, Transformers podcast on the airwaves. This is episode 14, and we've got an interview, a very, very, very special interview, because there's been a bit of a rumbling through some lovely individuals that Dave and me know, saying this guy has been chomping at the bit to get on and talk some Transformers with us. So this episode, we are joined by Wes from Powered by Primus. How you doing, Wes?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you guys?
I am fantastic. And my co-host, my brand new, I'm still going to say this, my brand new shiny co-host is with me as well, Dave Cook from the ENERGON. How you doing, Dave?
I'm good, thank you. Good evening. Hi, Wes. Thanks for joining us this evening.
Oh, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
So, Wes, we can break the ice now. Welcome. You're here. I feel like there's some sort of epic, like, pyrotechnics going on. You know, the planets have aligned. You are now on One Shall Stand, One Shall Fall, mate.
Excellent. We're right in the middle of a Rammstein live concert, so there's
that's amazing.
Pyrotechnics and flames
exactly.
everywhere.
There we go. Exactly, mate. Exactly. So what we wanted to do with this interview, obviously, you know that we interviewed your buddy Matafa from the ARK.
Yeah.
And what we want to do with this one, we're going to talk a little bit about the ARK, but you are one of the main brains, should we say, behind the raid concept for UNICRON. And we wanted to talk a little bit more about how that design space is going, where is it going in the future, and have you got any possible plans for any other kind of raids and stuff? Because I can tell you for a fact, I'm a huge fan of it, and I'll let Dave talk about it now, because Dave absolutely loves it.
Yeah, well, I've just before we start recording, I just said how much my wife Claire loves it. Obviously, Claire's my co-host on the YouTube channel where we do some gameplay stuff, but she's not really a massive fan of the intellectual property. She knows Transformers and stuff, but she's not into it. But when I showed her the UNICRON, she's like, well, that'd be really good because we can play it with our 6-year-old, because my 6-year-old lad plays it and she's hooked on it. She just cannot, like, every time, should we play UNICRON? Yeah, all right. Any excuse to get the cards out, do you know what I mean? She absolutely loves it. But I think it stems from her Magic background, because we used to play a lot of Plane Chase and Arch Enemy. And it really, but UNICRON in particular, feels like playing Arch Enemy. Like, it really has that, you're in a race against time to beat the big bad. And obviously in Magic it was the scheme cards, whereas UNICRON, it's like, I'm just chaos countering up and up and up. And when you see it hit like 15, 17, and you're like, oh my god, it's honestly like,
it can be pretty scary. We have lost, terrifying. I have lost games, you know.
So have we.
When it's like, oh, 20. Well, okay. Set it up and let's go again.
Yeah, it's so good. It's exactly what I want. I actually, there was a Blue Talk from your co-conspirators, Blues on Attack, last year, where they interviewed Drew. And I actually asked a question to Drew in via the chat. It was like, do you have any plans to do Unicron? And he was like, maybe a raid, maybe this, maybe that. And then obviously we had the news, and then Jamie and obviously yourself have been working on the raid post cancellation. And then when Jamie released the video, I was like running around the house like so excited. I was like a child at Christmas. I was just so it's Unicron. Look at this, Claire. She's like, oh, whatever. and now it's her favorite game format. It's amazing.
It's awesome to hear. For one, we love to hear that people enjoy it as much as they do, and the feedback we've gotten from it has been tremendous. There has been, as always, there's always naysayers and everything anything custom that people do, but I would say 99% of the response has been positive, and we're just happy that everyone liked it. We were afraid.
Yeah,
anytime you put your name on something that is, and you put it out into the universe, and you hope the universe responds in kind, and they did. The Transformers TCG community, the best card game community I've ever been a part of, actually one of the best fandom communities I've ever been a part of, responded with unanimous, hey, we love it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, it really is such a well-designed raid. It just feels really like a race against the clock, like I've just said. But for those listeners that haven't seen it, obviously we'll put a link in the video to the Unicron raid on the Powered by Primus channel, and that sort of goes through how you play the raid, doesn't it, Wes?
Yep.
And it's just so good. It's so thematic. It feels, because Transformers movies, like, arguably my favorite part of Transformers. Like, that was the pinnacle of my childhood in relation to the robots in disguise, and it was just absolutely amazing to see like Scourge in his sweeps, and it's like a never-ending army. They just won't die. You kill one and it's like, oh, I'll just bring one back, so I'll unconventional flying object Scourge, oh my god, stop.
You'd be surprised. That went through a fair number of iterations before we kind of got it right. It definitely was. I would say it was one of the more difficult parts of getting the numbers and the tuning right, because we liked the idea of Scourge and his and the sweeps and having a whole lot of them, but finding the right number was tricky.
Yeah, because it feels hard with just two, because they do just keep coming back. Like, that phase one of the raid is generally what we've found when we've played it. That's the make or break. How quickly you can get through to Scourge is whether you can win that raid or not. Because Galvatron and Cyclonus, if you've got enough members of your teams left, can generally punch through to Galvatron and Cyclonus and get to phase 3 quite quickly. But that phase 1, we've had games where it's like, they just won't die. They just won't go away. They keep coming back. And obviously Scourge just hides behind their Brave. It's cool. It kind of sort of leads me on to sort of one of the questions with regards to the Unicron raid, if you don't mind me asking. It's just like, did you draw any other inspiration from other either board games or card games when designing the raid?
As a matter of fact, I am a huge fan of a card game called Sentinels of the Multiverse, and they recently did their big raid end-all event called Oblivion. And I love Sentinels of the Multiverse a lot. It is my favorite, just baseline, just standard kind of game that I like. If someone had an opportunity to say, hey, do you want to play a board game? And I'll be like, yeah, let's play Sentinels. And my friends think I'm a broken record sometimes, but I really enjoy that game. And so that had an influence on how the Unicron raid was designed. Obviously, the arch enemy influenced Unicron's design, but the idea of the timer and the subsequent waves of Wave 1, Wave 2, Wave 3 of each portion of the raid was kind of influenced a little bit by Sentinels, which the Oblivion, in Oblivion, you are fighting the main big bad guy, Oblivion, and he pumps out several different phases of the game. And Unicron, we felt it fit very well with how the Transformers TCG played to do something very similar. So we drew a lot of influence. I drew a lot of influence from there. I'm the one who suggested that portion of the game, the different phases, and both Jamie and Sam, the other member of Team Primus, we were the three main developers of the UNICRON raid, all just really kind of locked onto that, and we're like, oh, this is fantastic.
Awesome. Thank you. I need to check out that game now. I'm a massive board gamer as well, so
highly recommend it. It's a great, it's a wonderfully cooperative game. So
yeah, I think there are favorite style now. There seems to be so many good co-op games out there. One of the games that me and Claire play a lot is Arkham Horror LCG, which is, again, but you very rarely win that because it's designed to make you lose, but it's so fun. So yeah, I'm Sentinels of the Multiverse.
Yeah, Sentinels of the Multiverse is super cool.
Awesome. I'm going to board game geek that later.
Yeah, man, it's really cool. They're actually, funny enough, they're bringing out a miniature version or something, aren't they?
Yeah,
something along those lines, I think.
Kickstarted that one at its ridiculously high.
There we go.
Get all the miniatures painted and all that kind of stuff. I spent more money than I should have on that Kickstarter, but yes. As you do.
It's I think that's just the gamer thing, isn't it? We always spend more money than we really should, but it's not dead money because the amount of hours you're going to have out playing those games it's I've got some really expensive stuff like Nemesis and Star Wars Rebellion. They're expensive games, but when you play them, you're like, this was worth every single penny. So I'm gonna check that out for definite. Okay, Lee, do you want to go with the next question?
Yeah, I was gonna ask Wes, what do you do in the community, but I think we've just gone straight into it. So let's just keep going straight into it. I absolutely love it. So Wes, obviously you've touched on it that Heroes of the Multiverse was a huge inspiration for this. But if we just track back a little bit, what's your background with card games and stuff like that? Is there any other card games you played before Transformers, and which kind of took, obviously making you want to take part in becoming, partnered with the ARK and also with Powered by Primus, because you're in Jamie's playgroup, I believe.
Yep.
Right?
So my background is, I'm a general kind of all-purpose gamer. I board game, role play, card game. I've been doing that for years and years of my life. Cut my teeth with D&D when I was 8 and haven't stopped playing D&D since then. Got into Magic right when it was coming out. I worked at a local game shop in Denver that got some beta boosters in, and I promptly bought them out.
Awesome. I bet there's some value in them.
And played Magic the Gathering pretty hardcore from about 90, late 93, early 94 till about 98, 99 is when I kind of got out of Magic. Magic and I have a very tumultuous relationship. It brought out the worst in my competitive nature, and my friends stopped wanting to play Magic with me because I was kind of a jerk when I played Magic. So I realized, well, maybe I should stop playing Magic. And then I transitioned very briefly. There was a game that came out in '99 called Magi Nation. It was a fantastic collectible card game. Lasted a whole whopping 2 years and then got canceled. Sounds familiar. That game, and that was my last. That was my last collectible card game. It ended in 2001, and that was the last time I played a TCG until Transformers.
Wow.
So I felt so burned by the Magi Nation thing that I was like, no, I'm done. I'm not going to play another collectible card game. I'm out. I'm happy playing board games and role-playing games, and I don't need to spend as much money as I was on collectible card games. And then I heard about the Transformers game, and I was like, it's just another TCG. No. And then I saw Learn to Play video. And
I was so the same, Wes. I was so the same. As I was like, I am done. I stopped playing Magic in 2016. I played from 97 to 2016. And very much like you, I just found the tournament scene quite toxic and quite poisonous. And like you say, brought out the worst, because it was all about the winning. You're trying to qualify for the PTQs and all that sort of stuff. And I was like, I'm done. I'm not playing a CCG. I'll play Destiny for a bit, Star Wars Destiny. I was like, nah, costing too much money. I'm done. And then 2 friends were playing X-Wing. After playing X-Wing, they were playing Transformers. Like, ooh, shiny Optimus Prime.
Yeah, I mean.
So I'm a sucker for it as well. So exactly the same circumstance.
Yeah, so I
like,
saw a learn to
good.
play video, and I was like, oh, that looks interesting. And the closest game store to me didn't carry it, but I found out that it's supposed to be in Targets, so I went to my closest Target. They happened to have the original starter and 10 packs of Wave 1, and I said, sure, I'll buy all 10 packs of Wave 1 boosters and the starter, and opened those up, and I got a Legendary Bee and Grimlock in those first 10 packs.
Nice.
Okay.
Nice.
Okay. Wow.
And I was like, well, I guess I'm playing. And then I found we had a local Facebook group, got on with them, found out that there's a couple local stores that actually actively supported the game, and I went and met those guys, and then from there Jamie started coming in to that store, and that's how the group of us met Jamie, and that's how we kind of joined what's we call Team Primus, the powered by Primus play group.
It's really good. I think that's how it all organically happens, isn't it? It kind of you start playing a game, and then you look on Facebook, you see what the people are, and then it can organically grow from there. And I think that's how it really does for multiple different types of games.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the bread and butter of most of these games is usually being able to find other people to play with, and and the time of COVID has made it harder.
100%. Yeah.
But the web games and being able to play through webcam or on Octagon and all that has made life a little bit easier. Being able to, I've been able to get in games with, the boys from Blues on Attack, the guys from Wreck and Rule, and of course a few other folks from around the world. It's been really fun to be able to see the global community is still readily available and wanting to play. So yeah, that's my kind of background when it comes to card games and gaming in general.
Awesome source. So before I get Dave to divulge into more of our questions that we've got for you, so obviously then, Wes, you just said you got in at Wave 1 and stuff like that. What would be your favorite Autobot or your favorite Decepticon from the whole game so far?
Oh, jeez, from the whole...
From I would say waves. All right, let's keep it simple. Waves 1 and 5, because obviously you've probably got your favorites that you helped design in the ARK, but let's go with what Wizards released.
So it is as cheeseballs it is. Wave 1, hands down, Optimus Prime Battlefield Legend is my favorite from Wave 1. I've always loved Optimus Prime. He was one of the first toys I ever got. He has always been that, that hero that you always would like to have met in person. And even though he's a robot, he's that guy he's that robot that you would oh, if I could live my life as good as him, that'd be fantastic. So of course, Battlefield Legend tops that spot for Wave 1. Decepticon in Wave 1. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not the biggest Decepticon fan.
Okay, you can just shun them if you want, Wes. That's perfectly fine.
No, not.
If you want to, it's we know what side you stand on then in the war. It's perfectly fine, man. It's perfectly fine.
Oh, jeez. I'm gonna have to say, as always, Optimus Prime's foil, of course, is Megatron, and even though the Megatrons from Wave 1 were, well, let's just say they're not great.
Trash?
Trash is a, okay, yeah, they're a bit trash.
Yeah. I don't know how. So Drew kept telling whenever Mike and me had an opportunity to talk to him, he always said that Megatron Living Weapon is as powerful as Optimus Prime Battlefield Legend. He always said this, and I was like, I think my brain doesn't quite understand what you're trying to say, Drew. So I might need to just ask him now. I don't know how.
I don't think anybody's brain understood that, because I don't think anybody could agree with that statement.
Yeah, it's pretty bizarre.
Wave 2, of course, for me, it was the aerial bots in Superion.
Yes.
They just... I wanted Volcanicus to be a thing, but Volcanicus was not a thing. And he still isn't a thing. As much as I wanted that big beefy boy combiner to be fantastic, he was unfortunately just he was trash. Still
we
still
go.
is.
I was waiting for you to bring out the T-World. It's fine. The T-Word has been used.
Wave 2 Decepticon, I really was happy that they brought in the triple changers with Springer and Blitzwing. And I thought I thought the concept of Blitzwing was cool, just wasn't quite as good as he could have been, but I did really like the triple changer aspect. So Blitzwing would probably be my wave 2. Wave 3, I mean, I gotta go with... I played a lot of decks with General Optimus Prime. He was far and away. I loved his giving everybody tough and bold, and then when he swung in, he was tough, bold, and focus. He was great. So the deck that I played at Gen Con, actually, that I did really well with there was with General Prime. God, I can't really. Decepticon Wave 3 was Shockwave was Wave 3, right?
Yeah,
Major Shockwave.
Major Shockwave.
Yeah.
He's so good.
He represents everything that I hated about Magic, but everything that I loved about the theme of the character.
Okay.
Like, he fit the theme of who Shockwave is so well, of just like, I'm just going to wreck everything that you want to do, and there's nothing you can do to stop me. And I thought that was excellent. Wave 4, I will say, Lord Megatron was amazing. He was fantastic. I unfortunately had to play against him too many times at the ENERGON Invitational for my liking, and I just hate playing against him in a limited format when you're stuck with Trailbreaker and your opponent has Lord Megatron, and you're like, yeah, I got Trailbreaker.
It's like C-3PO with Doomed.
100%. Let's see. Captain Ironhide, what wave was he? Was he wave?
He was wave 3.
He was 3.
You can go Ironhide as well.
He definitely ranks up as one of my favorites in wave 3. Ironhide is... so there's a question asked, I remember seeing it asked, who's my favorite Transformer? Total, and that's Ironhide. Like, hands down. He was the very first Transformer I ever owned. It was a gift. It was a gift given to me, and I fell in love with the fact that I had this dopey van that turned into a dopey looking robot. Because I'm sorry, but the Generation 1 Ironhide Ratchet toys are.
Oh, mate.
Not the best.
But he was my first, and I loved him in the cartoon. I thought he's always been my favorite. I mean, when they made Captain Ironhide, I was like, oh my gosh, I can make a 3-wide Ironhide deck, and I'm gonna call it Iron Wide. Yes.
Yes.
Nice. Oh my days.
And
I love it.
So, and then let's see, Wave 5. Wave 5 had a lot of interesting things, like I love Fort Maximus. I thought his whole design was kind of inspired, except then after playing him, I realized you're not really playing against Fortress Maximus, you're playing against Cerebros.
Yeah, you are.
Because...
Yeah, definitely.
Because that's really, that the game doesn't start until you get to Cerebros. And then the game's usually over, and you're like, oh, I just lost. Okay, I'm just gonna go over here now. I was also a really big fan of I was a big fan of Trypticon, the idea of Trypticon, but compared to Metroplex, he was trash.
Yes. Sad dinosaur.
Which was unfortunate.
Yeah, very sad dinosaur. Very sad dinosaur.
A very sad dinosaur. So I mean, that's basically, I think those are the my faves, and maybe I didn't like the cards so much, but I love the fact that they were in the set. Were those guys?
Awesome sauce. Cool beans.
Yeah, I
All
think that's the thing, isn't it? Like it doesn't matter if the card's rubbish. If it's one of your favourites, you'll play it. It's like I tried to make Trypticon work so hard prior to Jamie's stratagem. I was like, I want him to be good. Is a giant dinosaur? He needs to be good. It's like every time I'm like, oh, I've lost again. And then Jamie, literally before even the whole set had come out for the ARK, I printed out. I did a Blue Peter jobby, which is a very old UK children's program where they literally just made stuff out of cardboard and paper, and I just did a Blue Peter jobby scout the area. I'm like, I'm playing with that immediately, and I just loved it. It's so good.
Yeah, that card surprisingly went through the several iterations of like, oh, it's not strong enough. Oh, it's too strong. Oh, maybe it's not strong enough. Oh, or how about this? And then we finally just said, screw it, let's just do this. And we tested and played, and it was like, you know what? It makes Trypticon playable.
Yeah.
What's the
100%?
And when people say, "Oh, it's just that's so much," it's like, but making him playable is too much. I don't understand that.
No, disagree. Yeah, because we all want to make the big dinosaur work, and I think you found, obviously, like you say, your stratagem's solid. It makes him playable. But I'm just curious because Dave and me both love our big boys, and we both love Trypticon. Could you tell us? Because obviously, it's probably obviously when you said it went through several iterations, which was the most broken that you had Trypticon's stratagem to make him playable and bonkers then, Wes? Can you recall one of them of just being how crazy it was?
Let's see. I know that there was an iteration where instead of I'm trying to think. I know there's one iteration where it was kind of everything that you have in the stratagem now, except it didn't. I think you could recur something. I think you could bring back Relentless Invasion, and that was just like that was kind of unanimously everyone just kind of went no.
Fair.
And so Ultimus just settled on the making it like heroic and villainous spotlight. Being able to grab 2 white icon star cards, which doesn't limit it to just Relentless Invasion. Like if you wanted to do Fuel Cache, or you wanted to do you wanted to do another white star card, you could. It just it works best with Relentless Invasion, but you still have some build room available to do something else.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, because you can play like one Relentless, can't you? And then you can go, well,
exactly.
The second white card's gonna be Leap of Faith or Fuel Cache or something. I really like Leap of Faith with Trypticon. It's just so good. Oh, I'll Leap of Faith into a battlefield incursion, into something else nonsense, and yes, die.
And the one big thing that we found that made Trypticon playable was giving him a free deploy. And some people may argue with that, but the thing is Metroplex basically has a free deploy every time he transforms back. So there was what separated the 2 Titans was the fact that Trypticon just didn't. You were sometimes kind of luck of the draw if you were going to be able to get one of his little weenie bots out to help. And we kind of made it so, hey, you're guaranteed at least one of his little guys once, and that made all the difference in kind of getting him past that first or second turn hump that Trypticon usually ran into.
Yeah, definitely, because if
100%.
if you didn't see Battlefield Incursion within the first 2 to 3 draws, game over. You just couldn't survive. Whereas like with the stratagem, you can fart out a guy on turn 1, and then if you're going second, you've got Battlefield Incursion, you can spit out another guy. So you've got 2 of the little guys early, and I always what's the one that draws you cards? I can't remember his name. Is it Full Tilt or Wipeout?
I think it's Full Tilt
between the two.
I think.
Yeah, the one that where you draw cards, because like if you spit him out, and he just gives you that dig, doesn't he, to get the extra battlefield incursions and just get the engine rolling. So I think personally, it's exactly what Trypticon needed. It's just great. I love playing Trypticon. He's just so much fun, and to have something that gives him that consistency was definitely well needed. So anyone that says it's too powerful, I don't think it is, because if you put him against Sky Shadow or anything stupid, then he still burns down.
Come now, if you put anything against Sky Shadow, it's usually
yeah. Well, yeah, this is true. This is true, but
it's
yeah, Sky Shadow's banned in our house.
Yeah,
Sky Shadow's just Sky Shadow's just a bad word in my house. I mean,
yeah, I've never played him, and I think it's not just because I know he's quite popular. I just know that was supposed to be Overlord. In my deep, darkest minds, that was supposed to be Overlord, and they just didn't have the gumption to change his name from that to Overlord, to be honest. If it was Overlord, I'd be playing it all the goddamn time. It'd be amazing, but no, unfortunately not. And it's Wipeout that draws cards, guys. I didn't want to disown you guys because you guys loved. I didn't want to be like, well, actually, but now you guys have.
That's okay.
You guys have mellowed out.
I'm the well actually guy all the time, so that's I get it. Getting well actually is okay by me.
Okay, all right. So, Dave, should we go into our next question then, bud?
Yeah. So sort of staying on the card design stuff. So what was your favourite card that you personally designed from the ARKWAVE?
My favourite card, Bustin' Deceptichops.
Yes. I love that card. I love it.
It's limited in its scope. I mean, the thing about it is that it's followed closely by Jazz that I helped design with Matifer, but. As I said, I love Ironhide, and anything I can do to make Ironhide better. And the thing is that, you know, there's not much you can do with the Sentinel Ironhide because he's so intrinsically tied to the Sentinels. And so I didn't want to do anything there. Captain Ironhide is pretty solid, but anything that gives him a star cost puts him at a range where I don't think you'd want to play him at that point. Because he'd go from 9 stars to 10 stars, and that's a lot to ask. Because he's okay, he's not great, and for 10 stars he'd be. And so I was like, what? Well, baby Ironhide, wave 1 starter Ironhide. What can we do? What can I do for him? Hey, you know what? You know, and we talked about it, and I looked at it, and I was like, why don't we just give him, when he's fighting Decepticons, it gets bold 1, bold 2, tough 2.
It's so theme. Where it's like, you know, the day I put together the truck deck I recently had on our channel was the day that me and my son watched Transformers a movie again, because he's not allowed to watch it too often because he's only 6, and there is the S word in there, and like my wife gets a bit twitchy, but like we watched it, just that line, you know, just bust some Deceptichops, and it's just so theme. It's just so cool.
Every time I look into a monitor, Prime, my circuits sizzle. When are we gonna start busting Deceptichops?
And I think it turns that little 6-star joke of Ironhide, because he was a bit naff because he was completely vanilla, no abilities. Like, to give him that, give it in both modes is really cool. I think a lot of people don't really realise that. It's the same with the Red Alert one that was in the ARKWAVE one.
Yeah.
It affects both modes. So, let's face it, a truck with 3 armour with tough 2 is not anything to be sniffed. That's actually quite good, particularly if he's wearing trithelium plating, which is...
And he also has 4 more health.
Exactly. So he's, what, 11? 11?
Yeah, it puts him at 11. Yeah. And yes, we know that it puts we understood that it put that particular character in that one-shottable. He's the hardest to one-shot character of that star count. Because I think you need 3, so 14. You need at least 15 damage, I think, to just get him completely, to ensure he's off the table. We get that, but again, how many people are going to be building a ton of Ironhide in a ton of decks? I mean, that's just it.
Yeah,
He's now playable. It makes me happy, but you know, he rolls up against other Autobots. He's just got 11 health. I mean, that's you know, it's nothing special.
I was just going to say, like, if you stack him up now with the other 7-star trucks that have come since, like Gears, he's 10 health. And Ironhide was tough than Gears, you know, like and Outback's 6 stars for 10 health.
Yeah, I mean he becomes a bit of can be a bit of a powerhouse, harder to kill, great to wall up with, and if you run 3 wide Ironhide, you know, he becomes the MVP of your team almost. He's usually my last standing Ironhide, but he's also the most dangerous usually at that point, because put him with a static laser on top of that, and as long as you're playing against Decepticons, he hits really hard.
And it just quite ironically, like the game shifted towards Decepticons quite heavily towards the end of its official lifespan. So like he definitely fulfills a role there as well. If you want to look at a more competitive side of things, you know, 7 stars for an 11 health, bold 2, tough 2 is actually really, really strong. So yeah, no, that's a great answer, man. And obviously, we talked to Matt on our previous episode where he said he brought you on board for Jazz. You know, what was that like working with Matt?
It was great. Matt was the man is 1,000 miles a minute, 10,000 ideas, all flying at like warp speed, and it was fun to just kind of zero in on what do we want Jazz. You know. I said I want Jazz to go back to his Spec Ops roots. You know, one of the very first comics that I remember reading about Jazz, strangely enough, was the Man of Iron story from the UK Transformers comics, where Jazz has to basically, you know, he's kind of befriends this kid and finds out there's this ancient Transformer buried somewhere that he's got to help him. And you know, the whole thing was Jazz was staying out of sight. He was staying quiet. You know, and he had to creep up on everything and couldn't do everything out in the open. But when he did, he brought the thunder. And that's kind of the idea for the new Jazz was, you know, he's got stealth so he's quiet. You don't see him coming. You can't directly go at him. He's always gonna be able to see what your plans are. He's always gonna be able to see your hand. But, you know, have to make it so it's not 100% actionable all the time. It's like, okay, I can see your hand, but maybe right now I can't do anything about it. And so when he flips back, that's when he can disrupt your plan, but it's not, you know, he can't choose exactly what he gets rid of. That's why it's random. And then, you know, and so giving, you know, we just really wanted to get back to who the character was, and the character, he was Optimus Prime's number 2. Regardless of, you know, them always saying Prowl was supposed to be the second in command, that was never really the case. It was always Jazz. And based on stuff from the IDW comic books, and then on top of that, I just wanted to make a playable, you know, Jazz that is just going to make people kind of cry a little bit. In the games that I've played with him, he has a tendency of making people just go, "Oh God, not again." Which, because I have a deck that I've built that uses Wave 1 Jazz and his stratagem, and the new Jazz. And let me tell you, that Wave 1 Jazz stratagem, it makes Jazz kind of like Scrapnel a little bit.
Yeah, it looks really. I've not had a chance to try it out yet.
On the outsets, yes, it's definitely. He's still a character that is very fragile. He is still a character that, unfortunately, having 10 health and no defense really doesn't do him any favors. But his original design was really, I think, where I don't think they had Pierce as heavily invested as they think there was going to be in later waves. And then once Wave 3 came out, he became worthless. He was already semi-worthless in Wave 2, but he became super worthless in Wave 3. So we kind of looked at it as an opportunity to do what they did with Cosmos and, you know, just kind of errata him a little bit. Just make it so, hey, if they're 8 stars or lower, guess what? If I flip 2 whites, you're only doing 2 damage to me. Which, you know, if you look at Scrapnel, you know, he can only take 3 damage each time he gets hit. So it's a similar kind of thing. It's just, and if they want to commit their really big boy to take Jazz out, okay. Sure, go ahead. By all means, please commit your big character to taking my 6-star Jazz out, and then I'll just take out your big character with my subsequent turns. So, yeah, so I have a really good Autobot Cars 4-wide Pierce deck that revolves around those 2 Jazzes. I, in fact, call it All That Jazz.
I was going to say, if it's not called All That Jazz, but obviously being Robo-Wares, you've already thought of that.
He's miles ahead of us, and he's made us eat a little bit of our crow, because I'm not gonna lie, I think I didn't give the Jazz stratagem enough justice on our preview video, on our review video even.
You know, and like I said, it doesn't make him, you know, it doesn't completely make him amazing. It just makes him more playable.
Yeah, and I feel like that goes across the board a lot with a lot of your characters that, and some of your strats you've done in the set, is you haven't made them too overpowerful or anything like that. You've made them playable, which, you know, we wanted all the characters to come back a little bit. Obviously, there was probably going to be some sort of rotation if the game continued when it came to competitive play and stuff like that. But we wanted to see, you know, some of those old guys come to the forefront, because if I look at Wave 1 and I look at it, say, from a competitive standpoint, it's like mainly Bugs and possibly, you know, Battlefield Legend.
Yeah,
probably the
War,
standouts, you know, a few of the Dino bots.
RC.
Yeah, no, there's not a lot of characters that basically will go, oh yeah, they'll play again now. Because even now, like, let's just say it, just looking at it from that perspective still, like, you know, Flame War's still really good, but people are like, oh no, Night Racer's a little bit better now, you know.
I
so you're
disagree.
like, well, you know, they do different. Yeah, and I'm on your front as well, Rest. They both do different things.
Yep, they fit a very good role in very different ways.
Yeah,
100%.
100%. Well, our catchphrase, 100%.
That is literally our catchphrase, isn't it? Yeah, I think like Night Race is really good. Obviously, if you've invested heavily in secret actions and you can spy Masters one under her, she's slightly better. She's got different trait. You know, she's ranged and not specialist. So, but they like you both said, it's like they did different entities in their own right, and they do different things. You know, if you want that carpet tough one all the time, Flame War's better.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. 100%. Right. So we'll move on to another question, Wes. I'm really intrigued because I really want to talk about this whole raid idea. Like,
yeah.
I've played it on my channel. Dave's played it on his channel. We both love and rave this raid concept. So one of the questions we were brewing is basically, obviously in the movie, Unicron is a big ass planet. You know, he's a planet. He comes and eats other planets. You know, he's like Galactus but in planet form. So how did you and the team decide on what his stats should be? Because technically, I still think he's incredible, like what you finally got him as. But like when I break it down, it's like, this thing eats planets. How can you balance that?
To answer you honestly, you can't. So you have to do the best you can within the confines of the game that you have, and the game that we have is all revolves around, you know, health and defense and attacks and all that kind of stuff. So we kind of had to look at it as, okay, he started out at 50 health. That was his original first pass at design. That was insane. It was you could never. We found that with the early steps of testing and the early steps of design, he was nigh unstoppable at 50 health. And so we started playing with, well, what's a good health total that we want people to get to phase 3 to be able to fight Unicron and still be able to beat him, but he's still got a good chance of beating you. And so, you know, we looked at, okay, who are the characters that are in the same kind of big Titan level kind of thing? So there's Metroplex, and, you know, Metroplex at 35 health and Unicron at 35 health. Well, what's, you know, well, that doesn't seem... Well, you also have to chew through all the sweeps, and you have to chew through all Galvatron and Cyclonus. So you have all this other health on top of Unicron's health that you had to get through. And so after playing around a little bit, the raid was originally a 4-person raid. 3 players versus Unicron. And then that came with a whole list of other incidents and problems about, especially the sweeps. The phase 1 portion at 3 players versus 1 was, it was how many sweeps do we have? Oh, okay, well, let's have 3 sweeps. Let's have 4 sweeps. Well, that then becomes an impossible wall to get through. Like, you just can't put out enough damage in a consistent amount of time to be able to get through all the sweeps without Scourge recurring them and getting more sweeps out on the table and things like that. So it was really, we tested him with Team Primus, I would say a good 3 to 4 hours a day for a good month. Playing with the different, playing with the different ideas, tossing these things out, this idea, changing these numbers. We would do weekend marathon sessions where a group of us, 5-6 members of Team Primus, would get together and we would just play for 6, 7, 8 hours a day, just trying to get through that UNICRON raid, and tweaking the numbers and finding out where does the sweet spot lie in beatability and not beatability. Like, where's the best place? Where is he going to be where he's going to be dangerous enough that you may not win against him, but not too bad that victory is still something that can happen. And that was, I think, really where we came down to, was we didn't want UNICRON to be unstoppable, because he's not unstoppable. I mean, they proved it in the movie. So we just wanted to find a place where he was going to be, a fun, hour session to play, hour and a half. You play UNICRON. Hey, you want to play again? Fantastic. Hey, let's do new teams. One of the things we don't, the thing that I hate seeing the most, and I guess hate is a strong word, you can cheese UNICRON out hard. You can build decks that are specifically designed to just hose UNICRON into, you're playing a horrible deck. You're playing, Sky Shadow horrible. You're playing one of those high top tier meta decks. The thing is that UNICRON wasn't, the raid wasn't designed with that specifically in mind. It was designed with the folks sitting around their kitchen table or hanging out in their local game shop. They only got a couple people available to play. Hey, let's bust out UNICRON and play some games. And so the design portion of where we came to balance that was testing, just trying this number out, this combination out. Did this work? No, that didn't work. That was way too strong, or that wasn't strong enough. And it just came down to finding a place where we kind of like the idea of a 60-40 split, where you're going to win maybe 40% of the time and he's going to win 60% of the time. That changes as you learn and as you change your decks to maybe play UNICRON. But then the UNICRON player, we give them free reign. If they want to rebuild the UNICRON deck to however they see fit, that changes the difficulty of the deck right there. We just say that, make sure you use the cards that we included for the raid, because if you don't, that's gonna hinder UNICRON something fierce. So, so that's where we kind of sat at, and some of the ideas we came up with that were maybe too strong for the baseline raid are what we're putting into for our, what we were calling hard and nightmare mode of UNICRON.
Awesome. So yeah, before I'm going to ask you about those lovely things, I feel like it's quite mandatory, because obviously I feel like, looking at it from like an outsider's perspective, obviously you helped design it, Wes, was, I don't know if Dave will agree with me or not, is the fact that I feel like when you play this, you need to play theme, because it's the movie, you want to play theme. So like the only time I think we've only won the raid was on my channel, and I played Dinobots because I was like, they're the ones that kicked UNICRON in the butt, so I'm going to play them, and I feel like you want to play theme with it.
Yeah. No, I was just gonna say, totally. Like when I'm looking at building decks for it, like every time we play, because my son's like, I want to be Optimus Prime, Battlefield Legend. I'm like, yes, Prime was in the film, Aidan, but there are other characters in the film. So what about Springer and RC and Magnus and this, and because you can cheese it, like you said, you can cheese that raid if you want to. You can just load it up with direct damage, keep the chaos counters down, and just it's. But that's not what you guys designed that raid for. It's for, like you say, the kitchen table, like getting you the family together in our case, or like you and a couple of friends, to just recreate that entire sequence of the movie in a really cool, fun way. And like if you you can do it in any game, can't you? You can do it in any format. Like you can either go full on top tier and make it so it's an unfun experience for the person who's playing Unicron.
Yep.
Or you can actually just have some fun, because that's what it's for. Like you want to play top tier, go and play events, and that's fine. And if that's your bag, that's cool. But don't bring it to a Unicron raid. But like you say, if you do, and that's kind of like leading on to our next sort of question with regards to these variants and stuff. Like if you do want to make it harder, like you say, you can customize Unicron deck. I play it as you gave it on the channel, because it just seems really balanced and really fair for Unicron, particularly if you're playing like, I don't know, some trash like teams which are just there for just to have fun with, you know. But sort of, you said about the harder variants. Sorry, so I'm sort of leading into another question here, but like, if you're allowed to say, what can we expect from these hard and nightmare modes?
So yeah, we're planning on 2 additional modes, a hard mode and a nightmare mode. They will both be encapsulated in the form of a stratagem that you just play on the Unicron side of the table. So keeping it in theme of how the game works. So I can't go into a ton of detail, just know that being able to cheese Unicron with direct damage is going to be officially a thing of the past.
Yes.
Nice.
And also, no!
And there are a couple of additional surprises that we have in store for that. And these are designed to make it so if people really want to take harder, more competitive base decks against Unicron, that they can. Because we want to encapsulate all levels of play with people on Unicron. If from just the folks sitting at their kitchen table, and once they found a combination of like, Unicron's always really he's easy now. We're always able to beat him. Well, try him on hard mode. It becomes a lot harder. Now try him on nightmare mode. I betcha you're going to have to start finding new ways to beat him and new teams to build and how to try and beat him is kind of the ideas behind those. But we still want to always maintain that kind of, he's still defeatable. He's still not going to be outside the realm of beating. He's just going to be ratcheted up a notch. Just ratcheted
It's
up
true.
a notch.
That sounds awesome.
So
I feel like it's really sad for me because, as most of you know and most of my listeners know, I love range characters. So that's going to be a thing of the past from the sounds of it. Never mind.
No more javelins for you, Lee.
No more javelins. Well, maybe
Bloody
not
javelins.
for Unicron. When we played Unicron, I would always play themes. So even though I couldn't officially play them, I played a few of the Coneds with them because they hilariously met their demise by getting eaten by Unicron. And it was mad just sending Thrust in with a steamroll just to blow up Cyclonus or someone and be like, yeah, that's really good. But then the one thing I think I love about the Unicron raid is the one thing where he just basically smiles, becomes the giant that he is, and then just deletes someone off the board. So, Optimus Battlefield Legend, delete. I think in my battle report, Ben, to quote Ben, I'm going to send Grimlock down the shops. And he was off the table. I was well upset. He was like, finally I get Grimlock to do something. No, jog on. And I think introducing these new modes is really cool because obviously it keeps it fresh, which is really, really, really cool. Because obviously within the movie, you don't really have certain characters that kind of were born from Unicron, other than the ones that are obviously already in it. So I assume you can't really add like Quintessons and stuff like that because it just wouldn't work, would it, Wes? Really? You're the Lord God. It just wouldn't fit in, would it?
Not really. I mean,
No.
No. Just wouldn't. And,
That could be another raid though, couldn't it? The Quintesson raid. That could be another
just the
raid.
Quintesson
could
pit.
be. It could
That's
be.
it.
But we're working on something else. See,
I know.
So Team Primus, we found some success. People seem to like the idea of the raid, and we want to build a new raid. And we're going to give the hard mode and nightmare modes. It's going to be a way to kind of keep you going until we are able to debut the new one. Just know that, Decepticons always have always have a plan, and their plan always usually ends at the end after 6 phases. And there happens to be very special Decepticons that I'm just shooting from the hip here.
Oh mate, I'm loving all these puns. This is mad.
I know. You've answered one of my questions before I've asked it, Wes. That's how amazingly powerful you are, Robo Wes. You've already answered my question. I know from the hints what it's going to be, but I am not going to say. I think just that little tease.
Just know we're gunning for all you TCG players.
Oh my gosh, that's terrible. This is
getting
worse.
I love it. I love it.
It's getting worse. I love it. But the most interesting thing was, without prying too much with that. So obviously you're doing a nightmare mode and also a hard mode. Would that possible new raid come with those included as well, to give that a little bit more longevity as well, possibly?
Yeah.
Or is that something you haven't thought about just because you just want to try and get the main base of that down?
Yes. One of the things that we're trying to work on, at least for the new idea for the new raid, is a couple people have already come up with some concepts. Brian Allen from Wreck and Rule posted his rules for an idea of an AI related where you play against a deck versus you playing against another opponent. We're contemplating that for potentially the new raid, an idea surrounding that. But we still like the idea of you and a couple buddies sitting at the table playing across from each other, because that's what the Transformers TCG started out as, and we don't want to vary too far away from that. We don't want to walk too far astride from that, because it's just, and that's one of the reasons why the UNICRON raid got set at 3 players, because after we did some numbers and did some tweaks and did some looking at, we could have made it easily a 3-on-1 situation. It did lead to some interesting interactions that we were developing rules to deal with, but then we realized, it's actually hard sometimes to get 4 people together. Harder than it actually, harder than it seems. It's actually easier to get 3 people together than it is 4. And so that's one of the reasons why we set the UNICRON raid at 3 people, is because, it's easy to get 3 people together. 4 is sometimes pushing it, especially in today's day and age. It's, while there might be an end in sight, we're still a good, 6 months more away from that, even being a real reality. So, 3 people, case in point, like Dave said, it's great for your family. You, your wife, and your kid. Boom, there you go, 3 people.
I feel like your new raid is going to divide friendships, because everyone's going to be fighting for that possible big boy that's been hinted to by you guys. I know for a fact that it will probably bring some of my friends who have kind of shelved the TCG but have enjoyed playing your raid and enjoyed seeing the fan-created content and building decks with those new cards that you've created, as well as others in the community. But yeah, I know for a fact, I know one individual on the top of my head is like, I'm in immediately, and I'm only going to play him. That's going to be an unwritten rule, guaranteed playing that raid. I know that for a fact. But no, that's exciting. I'm really looking forward to that, because that's, if you're not huge into like Transformers or the lore, that guy is a monster. Yeah, and it's so cool. It's so cool that you're touching on characters that either people really love or wanted in the game to begin with, but see them in a new light, because obviously that is just fantastic. It's just really, really cool.
Let's just wait. Anyone who can take a direct hit from Metroplex and get up and walk away deserves his own raid.
Exactly. 100%.
Absolutely.
It's just so good.
Yeah, he like, we're delving into sort of spoiler territory there, and he's already spoiled it, but I think it's quite funny when you have like a friend, Lee, that's like, I'm playing that all the time. In our house, the rule is you play UNICRON, and then the next time someone else plays.
Okay, well that I haven't played UNICRON yet.
That's the rule in our house.
I haven't played UNICRON as for some weird reason. I'm like, I don't know, because this might sound really horrible to Wes. I never thought UNICRON was that amazing. So everyone's always like, I want to play him, and I'm like, good. I don't really want to play the big eating planet, sorry. Even though I love like Galvatron, the swoops, and everyone, and the whole game, I just rather be like the little guys like trying to climb the mountain. That's I like that.
Also,
I like that a lot more.
We do also have a another future idea of a way of giving some life back to Unicron. There is some early talk that me and Jamie have been discussing. There's a certain individual that Unicron specifically hates, who encapsulates the entirety of who Cybertron is, and there is talk that we may start working on a raid versus raid deck.
That's
Yes.
yeah, that's full circle as well, isn't it, Wes?
So
full circle. So full circle.
but
for you
that's
guys.
gonna be
That's amazing.
That's gonna be later 2021, if that does in fact materialize. So that is completely in the may or may not happen. So everyone take that with a grain of salt. But we've discussed it. We've discussed it.
You can. We'll allow it. All right, Dave, have you got any other questions to shoot at Wes?
Kind of one, but maybe before we sort of skip on to sort of like the listener questions, because we've got quite a few of those as well. So obviously you've kind of alluded to the playtesting aspect of Unicron. And I imagine, was that primarily powered by Primus, the Team Primus testing that? You know, are you going to be opening up the playtesting for this new raid to the rest of the ARK?
So it wasn't just Team Primus we did a majority of the testing, but Wreck and Rule did some testing. The Matifer and his group up in Canada did some testing. Blues on Attack provided a lot of input and things like that. So the whole ARK team got input on the raid. And we, of course, had a tremendous help from Mike King, who did all the card design for us. Because Mike King, I will always sing his praises. Our cards wouldn't look as good as they do if it wasn't for Mike. Mike hand built all of our templates, everything from scratch for our cards.
Wow.
And you know, that was awesome. And then of course the wording and how the rules work wouldn't even nearly be as good as they are if it wasn't for Carl Endress. So everyone at the ARK had a hand in the Unicron raid. I will say the Powered by Primus team had I would say we were most hands-on with it because we're the ones working on it constantly. And then taking the input and the feedback from the other group, the other teammates and everything, trying to improve it, making the wording better, making things clear, making it so it didn't play like a hoopty jalopy, sputtering out, exhaust fumes. So it was but we'll definitely, as always, with anything related to the ARK project is okay. While we are all individual separate channels in regards of how we are content creators, when it comes to the cards, we are the ARK. There is no dissemination at that point. We're not just Blues on Attack, Wreck and Rule, Powered by Primus, Matifer, Mike, and Carl. We're the ARK. We're all one team. So anything that we're going to put our name on, everyone's going to have, everyone's going to have input on. The creators of our individual projects, as it were, have, I guess, first right of no, I don't agree with you, but we're gonna take to heart what our co-creators say. If they say that's a little dumb, I'm gonna believe them that they think it's dumb, and we'll look at something else, and we'll find another way to pull something else out that maybe keeps it in the same vein or the same kind of design intent, but is different. So yeah, and then when it comes to playtesting, one of the biggest criticisms from ARK Wave 1 is people were like, oh, we really wish you guys would have had a more open playtest phase. Okay, that's not a terrible idea, and we're actually going to open up to a wider group of playtesters for moving forward with projects for ARK Wave 2 and things like that, because we understand that people, the more eyes that are on something, the more quickly they may see something that we didn't see. So for moving forward, we are definitely going to have a large group of playtesters. We're going to put more cards in more people's hands sooner, to give us that feedback that we need before we drop the wave in earnest.
That's awesome. That's a really exciting thing to hear. I know personally I'd love to be involved in some way, and I know Lee would be chewing your arm off.
I'm sure we'll be able to get some cards in people's hands. I don't.
Matt already knows how passionate I am about one guy.
Yeah,
I know. Matt already knows how passionate I am
like,
one guy.
When I heard about the ARK and what you guys were planning to do, I was so excited because I won't lie. In July, I was pretty depressed about the whole state of the affairs. I've given this TCG my all.
You're not the only one.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we all felt the same way. Here in the UK, I'm not just a YouTube broadcaster, and me and Claire are really kitchen table players with Transformers. It's not something I take too seriously, and we just play it for fun. So quite often I'm really sloppy, but we enjoy playing and we enjoy doing it. But for me, the passion I have behind Transformers was building that local community up and getting people to come to events and just hang out. Like we only did a handful of tournaments. Most of our meetups were just, let's go and play some cards.
Yeah.
Order a pizza and have a couple of beers or whatever, So yeah, in July I was like, but then the whole thing with the ARK, and it was just like the light that the community needed. So it was just. And when I heard Nick was doing Galvatron, I was like, I'm so excited. And
I'm actually curious. I want to see someone build a deck around Unicron's Galvatron too. I'd like to see that because
I've done that.
Okay.
I'll send you a list.
All right then.
Buzzsaw and Night Racer together, or Flame War, according to your flavour, because you don't get a lot of stars with him. But the Unicron Raid Galvatron, if you can load him up and you just go bang,
he's a beefy boy.
Don't care. He's really good.
He's a beefy boy.
And say it with me, beefcake.
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 Yeah, there was a couple of videos on our channel actually with him. Like, it didn't quite go my way, but I think after a few plays, I was like, right, you know when you take a deck away and you change a handful of cards or maybe a character or this and that. Buzzsaw was really good with Galvatron because you could play a weapon on Buzzsaw swing and then get Galvatron's weapon for the next attack.
Yeah.
Really cool.
Yeah.
Really cool.
Awesome.
And Cyclonus as well. What a beast Cyclonus is.
It's true. He is a beast. And it's funny because the Cyclonus in the ARK set is more akin to Cyclonus from the movie and the cartoon series. And so we didn't want to step on those toes with Nick. And so the Cyclonus we designed, changed a bit to be more like the warrior, the swordsman Cyclonus that is in the IDW series.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say he's very much like the IDW, isn't he? With like the blade flurry mechanic built in with the flips and stuff. And if you can cheat a couple of flips out, like with an unconventional, and yeah, he's like 16 damage.
Yeah, he can be pretty. He can be pretty strong.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so.
Very much so.
So I think that's all of.
Yeah,
unless you've got anything else, Lee, I think we're good for our questions. Aren't we?
Our questions are done. So before we get into the mass hysteria, which is our viewer and listener questions, Wes, have you got any questions for us before we get to Teletran? Have you got any questions for Dave and myself, or should we just go straight into the emails?
Why do you hate on so much of what I made? I just.
That's Lee. That's not me. That's not me. I never said anything.
No.
Do not tar me with his brush.
I'm being completely poking at you. Yeah, I mean, Matifer asked a lot of the questions that I probably would have, I actually would have asked in his interview. But obviously, you guys are, of course, very happy and very excited that the game is continuing on in the hands of the fan creators. What do you guys want to see from the fan groups? Like, what are the not necessarily bots per se, but are there mechanics? Are there things that you would like to see addressed, or something that you're like, this is a problem, or this needs more support?
Dave, do you want to go first?
That's a
or
that's a
have you
great
got?
question.
I've got my.
No.
Do you want me to go? Okay.
If you've got an answer, if you've got an answer, you go.
I feel like it's always different for every person because everyone, like you stated earlier, Wes, your first ever Transformer was Ironhide, and now you've made Ironhide better, so that's really good and shed some light on him. It's funny that you mentioned Blitzwing. I was absolutely livid when I looked at Blitzwing and was like, that is such a missed opportunity by Wizards. Like, this guy is a fan favorite, and you just drop the ball. So I always feel like there's certain characters you wish you can revisit, and I think that's what fan creating stuff can do. Like, I know they tried to make him playable again with the strat. I tried him with the strat, and I was like, he's still not the thing. Because when I looked at the second wave of triple changes, and like Drew addressed it in an interview I did ages ago with him, that obviously Astro Train and Springer, the second time around with Springer, obviously, they addressed what the triple changes should have been in Wave 2.
100%.
The damage had already been dealt. So, because basically, when I talked to him at the ENERGON Open, he was like, yeah, Springer and Blitzwing, that was definitely like our first take on triple changes. And then obviously with the next iteration of triple changes they did, which was Springer and Astro Train and stuff like that, they said they definitely improved on it. And then when we saw it, we were like, oh yeah, this is miles beyond better than what the others were. So,
okay, so
I think
Blitzwing. God.
Yeah, so yeah, there we go. Good man. You know, I love a bit of purple and cream combo, a bit mad. But no, for me, it's like everyone knows, and I think it's just my worst thing about me is like I love running big boys. You've already blessed us with resilience, and I think that's my favorite card of all time. It's taken over from marksmanship and sturdy javelin and all that jazz because it's in every deck that I play with combiners now. But obviously, with fan-made sets, everyone wants to fix issues with combiners. Like Alpha Trion just did it with their combiners, which have really brought them to the forefront, which is really cool. There is one combiner that is trash, and I will gladly say trash, and is super iconic in the show. The lime green purple killing machine. Wizards, what were you doing? What were you thinking? To quote that movie. Like, that guy, I would love a better version of him. Like, my personal opinion is like combiners should feel like more power. Like, Bruticus is scary. Like, I've seen it on Dave's channel, scary. I've seen it on Jamie's channel, scary. You know, every time I've seen to play him, I'm like, I don't really want to play him. He feels like a combiner, like as Dave was mentioning earlier. But yeah, combiners. Like I said to Matfer, just Blitzwing and Devastator. That's it.
All right.
Just those two.
Quite passionate about the combiners.
Oh, come on, like growing up as a kid for me, like I grew up on watching B movies and Godzilla films and like Power Rangers and stuff like that. What's better than robots fighting? 6 robots combining to a bigger robot, or a city that combines into an even bigger robot. Like, yeah, it's mad. Like everything. Like I
100% agree.
Bigger is better. Bigger is better. Like, enough said. Thank you, Wes. Thank you. Also, because I'm gonna get a hilarious jab. Who the heck is Broadside? Like, who is this guy? Who is He's just an aircraft carrier.
So,
like,
he's not only just an aircraft carrier. He's actually a triple changer. Broadside.
What?
Yeah. He becomes an airplane that can land on his aircraft carrier. I don't know. I really don't understand that one, but yes. He's Broadside appeared in the Generation 1 cartoon, I believe, in about 4, if not 5 episodes total. And then he was again in the Japanese sequel series for about 6 episodes. In general, he was much better received in Japan than he was in America. He was kind of near he came in at the tail end of the end of kind of the American toy craze. I mean, Transformers effectively died in the United States in 1990 with the unfortunate Action Master line. I don't want to talk about that. So of course, because mandate obviously is get as many toys that we're selling into the game, into the cartoon as possible. Broadside, of course, was presented. So interestingly, So you know the deluxe Insecticons, which are Venom, aka Venom, Barrage, Ransack, and Venom, Barrage, Ransack. Oh my God, am I missing one of them?
Chop Shop.
Chop Shop. Thank
Chop
you.
Shop.
They were never in the cartoon. Do you know why?
Why?
Nope.
Because they were a toy that Hasbro purchased the rights to present in the United States as a toy, but they did not buy their broadcasting rights. So those characters were never allowed to be in the cartoon because Hasbro didn't pay to have them in the cartoon. They are considered the greatest failure of the Generation 1 toy line because of that. Followed closely by Roadbuster and Whirl, Roadbuster, and Sandstorm. No, not Sandstorm. Sorry, Sandstorm was in the cartoon, but Whirl and Roadbuster weren't allowed to be in the cartoon because, again, they were a third party. They were not Takara, and so they didn't buy the rights to show them in the cartoon. So
I did not know that. That's
rules, law master, as Matt told us, man. Law master.
There's a reason why Jetfire was only in roughly 16 episodes of Generation 1, because of the amount of lawsuits and copyright claims between the Valkyrie from Robotech and Jetfire's design. The toy, of course, as we know, was based on the VF1 Valkyrie from Robotech and Macross, respectively. But the cartoon, the likeness was contested multiple times, being still too much like the Veritech for broadcasting rights. So ultimately, Jetfire was written out of the series completely, and Omega Supreme replaced him.
Oh, that makes sense.
Because there comes a point where Omega Supreme becomes the Autobots transport all over the place, and Jetfire is nowhere to be seen.
That's it. He's just disappeared. I had that toy. Because I remember the basic shell of it. That it was the Bandai miniature. It had Bandai, and you basically clip the red plastic bits on, and it became Jetfire.
And the strange part about it is that initially in the UK. Jetfire was the toy that came out as the Autobot leader, not Optimus Prime, because Optimus Prime's mold and rights to sell him in Europe was held by an Italian company for the first year or so of the Transformers toy line in Europe, and so they couldn't release Optimus Prime in the UK initially.
I vaguely remember that. I was only. Well, me and you are the same age, Wes, so I'd have been, what, 9?
8, 9, yeah.
8, 9. Because I remember, because my first toys were Sideswipe and Skywarp. They were my first two.
Swoop was never sold in the UK.
No. Do you know
because
what, though?
he died in the UK comic book.
Yeah, there we go. I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember that in the comics.
Me and my family, my dad used to work for British Airways. I'm sort of totally digressing here, but we went on a family holiday to Florida in 1980. God, I was 10. 1986. We went to Florida, and I remember going into Toys R Us and seeing all these Transformers we could not get in the UK. You just couldn't get them. They weren't commonly available, And me and my brother both wanted Devastator, but we were told no. So I ended up with Scrapnel, or Shrapnel, as he was called then, and Kickback, and my brother had Swoop and Slag. Or Slug, as he's now called.
Slag,
Because at that time, they were like gold dust. See, we had loads of, you could get like Starscream, Skywarp, and Sideswipe, and all the mini ones like Brawn and Huffer. You could get all them in Tesco, which is, that's like your target. Tesco's like, go to Tesco and get the boys to transform, they'll shut up then, won't they? But for us to walk in a Toys R Us, which we didn't have here in the UK then, I don't think, or if we did, there was only in a couple of cities. To walk into there, it was like magic. To see all those Transformers, oh, I want this, I need this.
Oh, and another thing about Broadside, he's also a wrecker.
Oh, okay, yeah, because I was going to say, I know Matt mentioned he was a wrecker in this, but I also find, so my gist, Wes, if I've got this correctly, he's kind of a giant triple changer, kind of similar like Skylinks then? Is that the best way of describing it, possibly, with the triple changer kind of form?
No, unlike Skylinks, who's two parts that form into one unit, he was legitimately just a triple changer like Blitzwing and Astro Train, where you transform him, he's an aircraft carrier. Transform him, he's a plane. Okay. So he's either a tiny aircraft carrier or a jet, or he's in a possibly large jet and a regular size aircraft carrier.
Yeah, because I only remember seeing him when he was like with Sea Spray and they were looking for Trypticon, and then I was like, who the heck is that? I have not seen this guy ever in the G1 series, other until like after the Five Faces of Doom, when obviously Metroplex and Trypticon, and they're searching for him, and then he goes, hangs out with Octone and a crazy like Middle East country. he had his in non-G1 cartoon media, he had quite a bit of play in the Transformers UK comic, because Simon Furman, who was the writer for that, loved the Wreckers, and so he used them a lot. And so because of that, you would see Springer and the Wreckers, including Broadside and all that, quite a bit. And then he got a fair amount in the 2005 IDW continuity as well. He was around a lot. He wasn't a main character. He was usually just like a character that was there getting shot up or shooting someone. But that was that's primarily where Broadside got most of his love. And then he had some really cool toys come out over the course of time. But in general, yeah, he's an oft-forgotten character. He didn't see a lot of people don't know who he is. Cool beans. All right. That settles. I've given Dave enough time to figure out like what he would like to see. So I thought I'd quickly get the Broadside answer out the way, because, mate, I still make fun of Broadside. He's a giant aircraft carrier. That's mad. I still think that's funny. Like, he's not going to go very far on land, is he? But then he's got a jet, so that's okay. That solves that issue, because I was just like, everyone else is like, roll out, and he's just like there going like, well, I can't. But now he can. Now I know he turns into a jet. It's all good. It's all good. So, Dave.
Do you know, we've been talking so long, I've forgotten what the original question was. Sorry.
What is something that you'd like to see visited or even revisited in the game that hasn't, what you think has not seen enough? Is there something more in the game that you'd like to see explored?
Some more mini cassettes.
Okay.
Obviously, we've had Beast Box and Rumble, which is amazing, and Rewind.
And Ratbat.
And Ratbat as well. Laserbeak, please.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if there's any. Are there any more than?
Oh yeah, there's quite a few. There's Slugfest and Overkill.
There's a few.
There's a deluge of mini cassettes that can be examined.
I think I'd like to see, because I recently put together Soundwave again, and it was just so cool to have Rumble. I just had in my brain like Rumble, eject, and like Claire was like, I think Matafor actually commented on our gameplay videos like, that's the angriest scrap of an upgrade ever from Claire, because I flipped Rumble and she's like, ugh, I just threw the upgrade in a bin. It was like, funny. That's for me, like, Soundwave is where cassettes is at, and just to see him made better. Rumble's amazing, like, just swing. I'll pitch this random blue card I don't need now, or like my handheld blaster, for example. Oh, he swings for 6. It's really, really good. Yeah. And obviously, if he's got an Energon axe, he's just really hurting people. It's really good. Okay. Really cool. So that, I think, the other thing, and something the Artwave one has done really well, was address the Pierce conundrum. Like, Trithelium is amazing.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like, are there any other things that the Ark may be playing to combat the Pierce conundrum?
I know. Well, so if we're going to do anything about the Pierce conundrum, I mean, one of the things that people are asking is, we don't have any intention, at least currently, to introduce a new pip color to the game, because we think that would just be, that way their madness lies, because the amount of support we would have to provide for a new pip color would be astronomical. To even have it come close to equating to the same combinations that we have in other pip colors. I think they swung the pendulum a little too hard on black.
I agree, totally agree.
So, you can definitely, I can foresee us coming up with more things like trithelium plating to kind of help, combat the idea of the thing is we don't ever want to swing it back to where all you're building is blue shells and that's all you have, because it's a balancing act, and we're just going to keep having to walk it, and we're just going to keep having to provide additional things that help kind of combat those things a little bit, but we never want to nullify anything that's come before. That's the thing that a lot of people were like, well, why didn't you address problem A, B, or C? It's like, well, we didn't want to nullify Wave 5. We have to live within the existence of Wave 5. We have to live within of what came from Wave 5. We're always going to build something. We might build something strong, but we never want to build something that's going to completely, like, say, oh well, I'll never play this card again because of this card. We want to try to avoid that. Because Wave 5 exists, and that's the world we live in.
Yep.
And if that's the world we live in, that's the world we have to design around. Not be afraid of designing around, but being just able to understand that, hey, Wave 5 exists. We have to build in that world.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it absolutely.
I feel like,
no, you go, man. You go.
No, I was honestly going to say, I think like with your set though, that addresses the Wave 5 conundrum. Is like you have pushed Autobots back to the forefront a little bit, because Decepticons pretty much were on top in Wave 5, like even Dave mentioned it earlier. And I feel like the ARK and even Alpha Trion, they've been pushing you both, and other content creators who've been making cards as well have been pushing Autobots back into the forefront, because we did end in a very purple world, which I was very hyper about, but at the same time, looking at it, it's like that's all you really see. So, the goodies have to be good, you can't just let the baddies win all the time.
Yeah, and ultimately, we never want to push this. We never want to push the pendulum too far. Like, we don't want to push it too far back into Autobots' favor. We want to make sure, we want to try to play in that, in that middle zone where you can have Autobots, Decepticons, throw in some mercenaries every now and then. Never forget what came before, and try not to overcorrect too far one way.
I think that's it. Like we touched on this with Matt, actually, is like every archetype should be able to be represented in the game. So like blue should be relevant but not oppressive. Like you say, no one wants to go back to the blue madness that we used to have, like where it is a wall of blue and you couldn't get through apart. And I think that's great. You look at some of the cards that you guys have printed, like Trilithium, Wannabet, Funny Failure, as Matt likes to call it, or Cacophonous Failure.
Concaphonous failure, yes.
Just those answers to important questions, that are raised by the game. So you have tried to work within the confines and give like sideboard options or main deck options. I don't build a blue deck now without Trilithium. I actually had to go and order another 6 playsets from that website because I have that many decks built. I need more Tritheliums. Let's get them ordered. And that's the beauty of the print and play set, isn't it? It's like I need more. The pence, compared to obviously getting a chaser out or something like that. So that's really cool.
I mean, yeah, that's the thing, is you can just go down to your local print shop that does just, you can do just paper, proxies if you need to. So, all right. That's honestly though, that's the only question I really had for you guys.
Awesome.
So let's get into the next bit.
Yeah.
Let's see what the viewers and listeners have got to say. So you go first, Lee. You pitch one of the questions first.
From the secret files of Teletran 2. In the days of Megatron, Decepticons developed the art of espionage using cassette technology.
So I've got a question from someone in my meta, but wants to basically keep his name off the podcast, so I'll respect that. And he says, this is open to Wes and the group. Could you guys talk about possibly some of your favorite factions within the Transformers universe? So Wes, we'll open it up to you then. What's one of yours then?
The Circle of Light, the caretakers of the Crystal City, Diatlas, Wing, where Deadlock became Drift. If you never read the Drift miniseries in IDW's comics, I highly, highly recommend it. You get a very cool take on a new group of Cybertronians who left Cybertron when the war broke out because they were like, this is pointless. We're gonna keep killing ourselves and depleting our resources, so we're leaving. And thus the Circle of Light came into being, and they have the Circle of Light Greatswords, which are these monumentally awesome Energon swords that they wield. Like I said, Deadlock became Drift, who is a fan favorite character. I love that. That was a really cool part of additional Transformers lore that I really enjoyed. The Wreckers, of course, are always cool just because they're the dirty dozen of the Autobots. You know, I mean, that's who they are. They're characters. You join the Wreckers, and you know, good luck. You may not make it.
It is true. They're like a Suicide Squad, aren't they? Really? When you sign up for the Wreckers.
You know, when you sign up for the Wreckers, it's you know, you might have plot armor, but you probably don't. The Decepticon Justice Division is a really neat concept that they came up with. I liked the idea of a unique set of Decepticons who were specifically put into play by Megatron back in the day to get rid of Decepticons who failed the cause. You know, if you were a Decepticon but you went traitor or you weren't Decepticon enough, you might get, you know, Tarn and his crew might show up on your doorstep and just take you out. They're really cool. There's some interesting, like, so Kaon, a member of them, he turns into an electric chair. That's kind of crazy. You know, it's like, you know, that's not very... And let's be perfectly honest, as a card, that would be weird. I can think of some ideas of how to make that work, and some other of the content creators have been working on their own version of the Decepticon Justice Division. I'm sure you will see something from us in the future. Maybe not our Wave 2, but maybe down the road. I definitely think that there's plenty of room, and then of course with the Mercenary faction, there's so many characters you can just kind of slot into the Mercenaries that maybe were Decepticons or maybe were Autobots at one point back in their original lore, but could easily be a mercenary. And that's a great way to actually kind of explore a lot of those extra factions, is instead of presenting a fourth or fifth faction to the game, you just present a new trait, like the Wrecker trait or the Unicronian trait that we did in the UNICRON raid. Things like that is you can make them mercenaries, or you could, you know, just make them a Decepticon or an Autobot and give them that additional trait, because that's a lot easier, because you can build a lot more around the traits than you can creating new factions, because once you start creating new factions, you have to build a lot of additional cards to support those factions. Again, that takes away from potential design space. I think creating a new bot with a different trait is, I think, a better way to go. But I mean, we'll definitely see them. But the Circle of Light is definitely,
that's cool.
You heard it here first. I'm sure you'll see something from them.
Most def. Dave, your factions then.
Well, I don't really have any. I have favourite teams within.
Well, go for teams then. I think teams would work as a faction, because if I think correctly, like whenever the Dinobots came out, they never really hung out with the Autobots. They just did their own thing. So yeah, just go with groups then as well.
Yeah, Grimlock Grimlock was just the strongest for me. I think for me, the Constructicons for me were like, I remember just watching the cartoon as a kid, and the first time you saw Devastator combine, I was just like, oh my god, I need that. And that's one of the first things I ordered when I started playing, because I was a bit of a late bird to the party. I ordered Devastator. It was around Wave 3 had just come out, and I ordered Devastator, and I was so excited to play it, and I played it, I was like, it's rubbish. But I absolutely love the Constructicons. They're probably one of my favorite things. I love the Seekers as well, Starscream, and Skywarp particularly. Skywarp was one of my favorites. Sort of teleporting around and stuff as a kid. It's one of the things that was written on the back of his packaging. It's like he's a teleporter. I was like, oh, that's so cool.
I really want to make a mercenary Thundercracker.
That'd be cool.
That would be cool.
Because Thundercracker, because in the IDW continuity, Thundercracker leaves both teams.
He does, doesn't he? Because he's in the end of All Hail Megatron, isn't he? Yeah.
He feels the honor of the Decepticons doesn't exist anymore because they're no longer honorable warriors. But he also is like, I don't want to join the Autobots, so So instead, he goes on to become a screenwriter for Hollywood.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, that was the most maddest thing ever. But then, if you do read All Hail Megatron, there's perfectly logical reasons why he doesn't want to be a Decepticon, guys.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say mass genocide at one point. Speaking of Devastator, we were talking about it with Dave. Like, just the fact that it's just thrown away in a one-word conversation, just like, Tokyo's no more. Like, why? It's like, Devastator went over there, and you're like, wait a minute, what? Wait, did they? Tokyo is no what? Like, you literally are reading a comic as a teenager, just go, wait a minute, the purple and green machine just flatlined Tokyo. No, what? And that was just written away, and then you go straight to like Astro Train bullying like teenagers and whatever. But like, it's just mad. It was so good.
Yeah, I think the like what Wes said, the Drift storyline is amazing. Like, is arguably one of my favorite.
Right?
His entire through arc, like from him being Deadlock all the way through to becoming Drift, and then into the More That Meets the Eye series and the Lost Light stuff. Drift, favorite character, one of my favorite characters.
Yeah, that's a great comic. I'm still playing catch up with the IDW stuff because I fell out of love with Transformers partly because of Mr. Bay and his rubbish films, but
we won't talk about those.
The card game reinvigorated the whole franchise for me. So like, just to see stuff that I saw as a kid in card form was so cool. So yeah, like Constructicons, the Insecticons, although they were busted good. I've got them all, but I don't use them an awful lot because that whole orange Insecticon build was nasty as hell.
There's definitely some design space that you can find with the Insecticons. Blue Bugs is always fun. It's very different. And I think that you could. There's some definite, some additional work that be done. We could maybe see a new Barrage, maybe see a new Venom, maybe see a new Ransack. There's definitely places to go with them. It's just I just don't know. They're not necessarily at the top of the list right now.
Yeah. I think that's the great thing about this franchise is there's so much, particularly with the IDW comics. Like, they've expanded upon what the cartoon started. There's so much you guys can draw from, and that's some of the listener questions are about other options available to you guys at the ARK. So yeah, like, that's my answer. I just I don't have a particular favorite sub-faction, but I really liked individual teams, like the ones that made me smile as a child, like the big green monster thing, the robot. That was cool.
Of course. I think I've only got two that stand out in mine, and one is a hilarious thing that I've been waiting at Wes to possibly answer like all the time. I think my friend who shall not be named has nailed it on the head. He knows that I love the Decepticon Justice division. Like, their introduction is possibly one of the most awesome and saddest and craziest introductions you'll ever see in a Transformers comic. I don't want to spoil it for you, but I think Wes might agree with me. Just how they show up and do that one thing. You're like, oh my god, these guys are no joke. Like, no joke.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree. And obviously it comes to a full thing as Wes was saying. Like, Megatron sent them out for anyone who defects. It's obviously common law if you've seen it. There's loads of model kits out there. Everyone's like, why has Megatron got the Autobot symbol? In More Than Meets the Eye, there's a great arc of his trial, which is phenomenal. And Tarn meets up with him, and there is a showdown for the ages. And it is so good, So yeah, the Justice Division is great, and also I love the Stunticons. Like, whenever they showed up, they were just being dicks on Earth. They were just doing destruction derbies in the street or doing something completely random, and then they would just show up and go like, I think my favorite one is pretty much Starscream's Bridge, where they basically show up and go like, what's going on? Looks like Starscream's won.
Megatron's in trouble.
Who cares? It looks like Starscream's defeated him. So?
So you think Starscream's gonna stop here?
Good point. He never knows when to quit.
And that also coincide with with my hilarious question for you, Wes. So the sword. What's the deal with the sword with Venusaur? Is it like Motormaster's sword that gets bigger, or what? What's the deal with the Venusaur's sword?
It's just a big sword.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna say that.
It doesn't have any. I mean, it's like so. Like we did Grimlock's sword in the ARK. Matt did Grimlock's sword. Okay, Grimlock just has an Energo sword. It's all he uses, and all the Dinobots use something called an Energo sword, and the only one that doesn't is Swoop, who uses a thermal weaponry sword. So we're just it's just, hey, Venusaur's just got a big ass sword. You know,
he summons a sword out of nowhere. I love it. I absolutely love it. I mean, it's just so random and brilliant.
Yeah, there's no big lore behind it. It's just he's got a big sword because it looks cool.
It looks cool. Enough said. We don't know where the sword comes from, but it looks cool. So
that's a good answer. It's like we don't need to elaborate. It's just there. It's just a huge sword. It's just there.
It's just there. Okay, Dave. If you want to go to the next question, then, bud.
Yeah. So this is from Michael Caccio. I think that's how you pronounce it.
All right.
How many people plan to keep playing even though it's officially cancelled? I hope this doesn't sound like a doom and gloom question. I'm generally curious. As a fan of Star Wars as well, many of those games are still played years after official cancellation.
Well, I don't know if I can officially answer that, but hopefully as many people as possible.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, I can hold my hands up and say I'm continuing to play, and I know you guys are.
So I can say based on the fact that the main Facebook Transformers group has maybe lost upwards of, at most, like about 400 or 500 people tops, and still has over 4,700 people who are, I think, part of the main Facebook group. The ARK has seen from individual downloads well over 1,200 individual people have downloaded the set.
That's amazing.
I mean, that tells me that there's a lot of people out there that are still wanting to play. And the fact that tournaments are still being held from multiple sources tells me a lot. So, yeah, hopefully a lot of people for a long time.
Yeah, I don't think we would be sat here now if people didn't want to play.
I agree.
I think the community has really risen up and said, no, we are not done. Because like Transformers is something that has been going for so long, and to have finally a game that really gave it its dues, as it were, and captured that nostalgia to just suddenly being taken away without all the avenues explored was, it was a tough day, like we've already said. But to have, community projects like the ARK and stuff, and like you say, there's a lot of traffic. If most days there's a lot of traffic on the ARK page, on the custom cards, Facebook group, on the main, sort of the global one, and then also on the UK one. There's always traffic. There's always people commenting and posting, and just connecting and keeping that community spirit alive. And I think, Michael, like I have no plans on stopping anytime soon.
Nor do I.
Yeah. Nah, me neither. I feel like we've addressed it, not just saying that we're doing this podcast, but with as soon as the game got cancelled, I came out with a video saying that I'm still going to do it. If there's fan creators going to constantly keep bringing out sets, we're going to review them. It was a hilarious uptaking to do the ARK videos. I'm not going to lie, guys. It was about almost 7 hours of mental editing, but hey, we got through it, and I'm glad that we can shed some light that, like Independence Day, we're not going quietly into the night.
But as the day when the world declared in one voice, we will not go quietly into the night, we will not vanish without a fight, we're going to live on.
I prefer Idris Elba. We're canceling the apocalypse.
The end of our time. We have chosen not only to believe in ourselves, but in each other. Today there's not a man nor woman in here that shall stand alone. Not today. Today we face the monsters that are at our door and bring the fight to them. Today we are canceling the apocalypse.
Yeah, I'll keep playing it. I absolutely love it, and I feel like the community has definitely rallied around content creators and just really being positive, because I think we addressed it as well, talking on other episodes as well. I think Wes, you can chime in as well. Like other groups, when it comes to card game, like communities can be quite, as we've already kind of talked about it with Magic a little bit, can be quite toxic. But like even when the game was well and good and alive, I never saw toxicity really in the Transformers community. It was just a really, really awesome community to be a part of.
I mean, I have been gaming for 3/4 of my life, and this is the least toxic community I've ever been a part of. I mean, and I love it, and it's one of the reasons why I am happy to be part of the ARK and happy to be on Team Primus and working with Jamie on Powered by Primus to keep making stuff that people want to keep playing the game with, because I love the game and I love the community.
That's it. And I think, you know, a game only dies if the fan base let it. And, you know, the fan base have said, no, we're playing. Yeah. So, yeah, I hope that answers your question, Mike. So, yeah, Lee, you're up next.
Yeah, so I got a question here from Jono Milligan. He says, with the ARK being a large success in our small growing community, and in the crux of it, the UNICRON raid, has this inspired the team to draft or dream of any further multiplayer or alternative formats? I feel like you might have answered this, Wes, but just to give you a shining light, Jono's community is having great success with your obviously your set, the ARK, and also the raid that you made with.
Yeah, I mean, we are, like I said, we're, you know, deep in the bowels of the ARK. We are working closely with Teletran 1, not the website, but the computer, the supercomputer, to try to build new multiplayer formats. Although we have worked with Teletran 1, the site, and we do appreciate all the work that he put into getting the ARK cards on there. But we're definitely looking at other multiplayer formats and other things we can do. So yes, it's a short answer. Yes.
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 Awesome. All right, back to you, Dave.
Okay, so this is from Brian Blair, who's a very prolific part of the sort of Blues on Attack Discord and that, and the general Facebook pages. So thanks for asking your question, Brian. So it says here, Wes has talked a little about the learning curve of the admirable task of going from players to card creators. What are the biggest lessons that he learned, and what changes are they planning to implement in designing the next wave?
To not take criticism personally. That was the biggest lesson that I had to learn. Of like, people may not like something. Cosmic Rust Cannon, for instance. While I was not the sole designer of that card, I worked with the other members of Team Primus who worked on that card, and boy howdy, let me tell you, that card got a lot of hate. And
I love it.
Yes, but
Great.
a lot of people didn't.
Why are they hating?
Well, a lot of people looked at it and were like, well, it's just it's grenade launcher. I'm like, no, it's not. In fact, it's a grenade launcher with a cost. In fact, it's a grenade launcher that's not as good as grenade launcher in a lot of respects. There are places for it. There are places where it wouldn't be suitable to be in a deck. Places for where it would be suitable to be in a deck. Yes, it's a card that really was designed. We kind of had that cool idea of, hey, let's make a cool weapon for Sound Blaster.
Yeah.
That's also not just Fusion Bore, And then the Horrible exists. Darn it. But
stupid Horrible.
But here's the thing, though. I'm not going to be afraid of building a card because Horrible exists.
Mm.
Yeah, fair play.
I don't think you should either. I think, like, Cosmic Rust Cannon, yeah, it's a great card. It's powerful, but it is not in every single one of my aggro builds because it doesn't fit the space of every single one. You might want a higher orange pip count, or you might not want to be suffering damage because your bots are smaller. There is a cost, like you say. There's a cost. You are going to take 1 damage minimum, maybe 2 if you want to keep it sticking around, and you've got no other upgrades. Or it's just a grenade launcher that isn't an orange pip.
And so not taking the criticism personally, not taking it to heart, taking the criticism was, I think, this is me personally. Beyond that, the other biggest lesson learned is just because we can create it, should we? Mm. And there are some cards that wound up on the cutting room floor that will probably never see revisited because it was like, ooh, yeah, we shouldn't do that. That's a mistake. That's not a good idea. Let's not do that. So I think it's looking at the way the game is currently, the state of the game, finding out what does the game need. The game needed an answer for Pierce. Salty had that. Salty came up with what I think a very good answer for Pierce. It's not the end all be all answer to Pierce, but it helps tremendously with Pierce. So I think it's just constantly continuing to reevaluate where the game's at, looking at the data, and one of the big things is taking upfront player feedback. Again, getting more upfront player feedback before we probably commit something to check and done. So definitely more playtesting from a wider community base.
Yeah, I think that's something that the ARK have been very positive on is feedback from the community. If you look at Megatron Autobot Bane, that was errated pretty quickly.
That's my fault.
That's all right, Wes.
When we were designing Megatron, Salty designed a Megatron that was probably would never saw a lot of play. Would have maybe seen a theme deck kind of play. The idea was that if it was on Starscream and you used Peace Through Tyranny, you could do things about being able to bring him back and things like that. But it was very limited in scope. Like, only Starscream, only Peace Through Tyranny. That's it. And I put up a big stink about he's Megatron. He shouldn't be taken out by a ramming speed. That bothers me. And he turned into what his first incarnation that got released to the wild was. And then after we took, like you said, we took some feedback and we're like, okay, yeah, all right. We see that, and so we made changes. And we're not afraid of making changes as long as we get the empirical evidence and data that tells us that something's not right. And right now there's still a lot of chatter about Wreck-Gar and his stratagem. The thing is, we haven't yet to see anything come out of Wreck-Gar being that he's oppressively broken.
No, I don't think he is. I've played against him a fair amount. Claire, one of Claire's pet decks is her motorbike gang, and obviously Wreck-Gar filled that hole that the deck needed because it was Chronia, RC, Flame War, and then another bot that fit the kind of criteria. Like, there wasn't another good motorbike you could get in the stars, and Wreck-Gar's gone in. And if you know how to play against Wreck-Gar, he's not oppressive. Yeah, he's bloody good, but he's not. You
just ignore him.
Yeah, you just ignore him. Exactly. You ignore him. There are some nasty things you can do with him, and that's actually Brian who asked the question originally. Because he watched our videos, like, why are you not playing involuntary promotion? I was like, that's a really good point. So there are things you can do with him that makes him nasty, but he's not broken. He's not broken. And I think, the other card that you guys were swift to sort of take out against the intention of what the card was designed to do, and that was the
Starscream's Brigade.
Starscream's Brigade, yeah. Because that's like, well, no one wants to see an unlimited army of brawls on the board because that is boring. This was basically a way to get Starscream and Bruticus in the same build.
Yeah.
Because that's how I always saw that card. I never saw it as like, I could make infinite brawls with this.
When I was playtesting it, I only playtested it under the assumption that it was only going to get me another Bruticus on the table, not going to get me 8 brawls. Now, to be fair, when we started testing that, and I was able to have 11 brawls on the out throughout the game, we were like, yeah, okay, I see where they're coming from. And we went to Mike and was like, Mike, was this what you wanted? And he was like, no. He's like, I just
flat out no.
He's like, no, I wanted to get Bruticus and Starscream on the table, which is funny. So Bruticus's original design, when Bruticus combined, he would do 5 damage to a leader.
Jeez, that's so themed.
Okay, now it wasn't an enemy leader. It was a leader. And so the idea behind that was, if your opponent didn't have an enemy leader on the table, but you happen to have Starscream on the table, Bruticus would turn around and punch your own Starscream.
That is so themed. That is so themed. That's so cool.
But the reason why we went away from that is because it felt so like once you combine, if there's no leader on the table, his effect there's no effect, and that felt bad. And so we ultimately changed it to something similar to what like Volcanicus does, but the difference is for every black pip you do a damage. Now the best part about that is it doesn't all have to be to one character. If Brutus combines, you get 4 black pips. You can be like 1 damage, 1 damage, 2 damage.
I did not know
awesome.
that. But that's probably because I haven't RTFC'd enough.
So, and so, that was, most likely it's going to go on 1 character, and also double black pips don't count as 2 damage. It counts as 1.
Yeah.
So
Salty's already told me off for that.
Again, so we learn by, the things that we learned is we learned by playing the cards that we made ourselves, and then going, was that fun? And if it wasn't fun, then we pivot, we change our design option. Like the original Sea Spray was god awful. Oh jeez, he was terrible.
The blue talk where you were just talking about it relentlessly with RJ. Honestly, I was dying with laughter watching that. It was so funny.
He was so bad. I love RJ to death, but the original Sea Spray was bad because once he flipped to bot mode, he couldn't flip back. And he was just he was awesome as a boat, and but now I have a deck that I put together that I can't wait to play. I'm calling it Ships Ahoy.
I love it.
That is Sea Spray, Nautica, and the patrol guy, Sea Watch.
Yes, that's it.
All the boats.
So it's called Ships Ahoy, and that's it's a terribly, wonderfully, it's not a deck that I expect to win a lot with, but it's a deck that I'm having fun with because all the characters in it are at least entertaining to play with. And the new Sea Spray is entertaining to play with. So the idea is we kind of look at it as is it fun to play? Yes. Okay, keep going. Is it fun to play? No. Let's shift gears. So that's one of the other lessons we've learned is if it's not fun, then either we make a change or we have to do something else with it.
One of my local group, he's the TO for the other game store here in Plymouth, and he was like, is a set made by fans of the universe, not just a mechanical creation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like the lore, you can feel the theme running through the ARKWAVE one massively, and I love that. That
was the other thing is that one of the things that was my driving force was thematics. Sunstreaker that Matafor made, his original incarnation didn't feel like Sunstreaker at all. If you read Sunstreaker's original bio, it straight out calls him a sociopath. Mm-hmm. He is not a character that Sunstreaker in the cartoon and in the comic, he always got himself in trouble because he would always go seeking glory for himself. Hence is why his ability to tap other lesser bots of his star counter lower is because he's like, no, I'm gonna untap and you're gonna tap. I'm gonna go and take the attack.
It's my turn. It's
my turn. It's not your turn. It's my turn. And that felt like Sunstreaker, and Matafor agreed, and so we did some theme changes, and ultimately we got a character that I think feels very much like Sunstreaker. Hopefully that answers that question.
Yeah,
100%. Okay, so I've got another question here from an anonymous person who didn't want to be named, and he says, with Wave 2 off in the distance, are we going to see any more possible character-specific weapons? You guys did a fantastic job with Omega Supreme.
Yes.
I just have a few possible ideas, like Jazz's speakers, a better Megatron's fusion cannon. I have to agree on that front. And maybe a crappy Optimus... Oh, he's definitely a Decepticon fan. A crappy Optimus Prime blaster.
Yes, as a matter of fact, we are planning on some more... we're definitely planning on some character-themed weapons that don't necessarily have to be characters that aren't necessarily specific.
Cool.
So one that might be, hey, it's an Autobot card, it's an Autobot upgrade named after a specific Autobot that any Autobot can use, but it's not good. But Decepticons can't, and vice versa. So definitely there are some plans in the works that you will see some. I agree wholeheartedly with a new fusion blaster of Megatron, because boy howdy. What's funny about that card is that card works really well. If Living Weapon actually didn't suck, the card works great for Living Weapon, because you put one in all 3 slots.
Pierce 9, yeah.
It's Pierce 9. That's woof, woof. But Living Weapon stinks, so it's not that good.
I think we touched on that on one of our other episodes, and also I did a deck profile on Galvatron recently, where like obviously you can see that the particle cannon of Galvatron is kind of like what you'd expect maybe if fusion cannon was to be designed now.
Yeah.
Like with a green pip, with like, you know, decent stuff.
Well, it's an evolution of what the fusion blaster of Megatron, of the fusion cannon Megatron is really what it is. It's an evolution of what that card should have been.
Yeah, 100%. You know, that's exactly the way I look at that card, and it's nuts on Galvatron.
I think the mechanic of can be put on Autobots, or can be put on Decepticon, is better than Optimus Prime only, or unless it's like very specific, like Galvatron, or Null Rays of Starscream. You'll see some things like that.
Well, you kind of alluded to that, didn't you, with the was the Windblade sword, the Stormfall sword?
Yeah,
that was like, it's a good weapon,
but on Windblade,
if it's on Windblade,
even better.
Exactly, and that's exactly the kind of flavor that runs through on those kind of cards. Okay, is it my turn? I can't remember.
I believe so, Dave. I believe so, sir.
So we're going to go back to Joe Milligan, who asked a question earlier. It says, when designing cards for a fan format, how do you plan on tackling future mechanics that currently exist outside of the current game state? Example, designing something such as Titan Masters with their unique mechanics. Do you tend to work in the confines of what Transformers TCG has already laid out, without further alternate mechanics with potential, i.e. the minicons?
So we're given a world where Titan Masters exist. So Titan Masters give us a opportunity to maybe make Power Masters. We already have Target Masters because they're the weaponizers. So there is a possibility that we could see something along the lines of a Power Master mechanic. I'm not saying that we've come up with anything, but the groundwork has already been kind of laid for some of those things, and it would be easy to pick up the torch a little bit, I think, and move and shift kind of some of the gears a little bit. Be like, okay, so it works like this, so let's try this. We've put forth, in our own personal chats, in our own private ARK channel about, how about different Titan Masters and things like that. And we've decided we want to kind of let that lay for a minute, because we were given a whole wave about them. And so our next set is definitely not going to involve, at least at the moment, at least isn't going to involve anything that's Titan Master related. But I definitely see room for including other Transformer gimmicks, except, and I put my foot down at this, except Action Masters. I don't think that will ever happen. So, because a non-transforming Transformer, you have Slammer and Trypticon Brunt, and that's all you need.
Fair enough.
You don't need, so I don't think we'll see anything like Action Masters. I definitely see there's room for additional Battle Masters and Weaponizers in the game. I think there's room for Power Masters. I think you could do something cool there. A couple people have been putting forth like the idea of like sidekick companions like Spike and characters from the cartoons and stuff like that. That can be explored, I think. I don't know. I don't know if the way they're currently doing it is the way I would do it, but it's definitely they're building it off of the Power Master idea. The Titan Master idea. So I don't. And then some people have suggested, how about location cards and things like that. Okay. I mean, plane chase is awesome. I really I thought the idea of plane chase and Magic was pretty cool, but I don't know how that would require a lot of extra testing to see if it actually works well in Transformers. So we definitely are not against mechanics because we created the keyword horde. We have a few other keywords that we're working on for our next wave, so do expect to see some new keywords. Some other folks have come up with new keywords. ATP came up with sturdy as a keyword. So we're definitely going to be exploring new mechanics. We're just going to try to make sure the mechanics live in the world that WotC created. We don't want to or need to reinvent the wheel. We need to make sure the wheel keeps turning and it never gets too stagnant.
Yeah, that's actually a really cool design aspect for people possibly going forward, creating their own content as well, and just remembering, you want to keep the wheel spinning. You don't want to, I think that's really interesting especially because in this time now, I feel like with our last podcast we did, Randy created a really cool set of Beast Wars stuff, which was very different to what we've seen originally. There was a lot of synergy between characters, and some of the characters had specific traits compared to the villains in the show and stuff like that. And it was something not seen like in the whole TCG universe. And I feel like going forward, you want to have those kind of aspects going forward, but also you don't want to make something that's completely broken, because hey, if we lived in a perfect world, Blitzwing would dominate every competitive meta that I would play in, because I want him to be the best.
And Ironhide would do the same thing.
And Ironhide for you, yeah, exactly. and everyone has
Devastator.
Yeah, and Devastator would, Devastator probably would. But yeah, you just got to find that right balance. And like Matt was saying in his show, when you have a balance, you got to have a counterbalance to things, and I think you guys have done a really good job over there at the ARK with that. So, Dave, have we got any more questions? Because I'm looking through my notes. I cannot see any more.
I've got one more question. It's one that I thought of prior to the Facebook post today. There was a post about tournaments. So my question was, does the ARK have any plans to host any online webcam or Octagon events in the new year? And obviously you do, but I don't know if you want to talk about that.
Well, I know it's already Tim with the Team PTSD and the Eye of the Matrix has already announced that their next tournament started kicking off the beginning of the year in January is going to be a ARK tournament, and will contain Wave 1 and the ARK cards. Which a good number of us are going to be on hand for judging that. Although a lot of our cards are fairly straightforward, so there's not a lot of weird interactions, but you never know. People come up with all sorts of crazy stuff. So there has been some internal talk about us potentially running an Octagon webcam tournament. Jamie, I know, has been talking a lot about wanting to organize something, so be looking out for something along those lines, probably closer to the beginning of the year. I think he wants to also announce he wants to run something for us. Jamie, of course, powered by Primus. So yes, but we really like partnering with other people, like Tim with Tim PTSD. Seems like it's a really good fit. We can be on hand to help judge. They've already got an infrastructure already kind of put in place. If it's already built, why build it again?
Yeah.
But we definitely want to make sure tournaments are run. We want to make sure that people are having fun using the sets. We want to make sure that there's enough time between Wave 1 and when Wave 2 comes out that you're not scrambling to get another 80 plus cards or more figured out before a tournament, things like that. We definitely are gonna Wave 2 is coming in 2021, but it's not coming in January. So I want to make everyone very clear that you're not going to see a wave drop in January. It's probably going to be in the first quarter, maybe, of 2021, but not in the first weeks of 2021, because we're still taking a holiday break and just kind of getting everything under, just letting it wash over us that we released a set and we're excited and we're happy about that.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I haven't even scratched the surface. I'm building decks. I'm like, I still want to do this. I still want to do that. And then, like, you know, like, I think it's nice that you guys have given us that breathing space to just digest the set.
I think personally, there's still a lot of development space of deck building that we still haven't found from the first 5 waves. I still think there's stuff out there that there's some secret sauce that's, you know, that folks haven't found yet. I still think there is. And then throw our stuff on top of that, and there's more secret sauce. And then throw Bayformers stuff on top of that, there's more secret sauce. And then ATP, and there's more secret sauce. That's one of the things that we've been, you know, we announced that we're going to be doing some collaboration with the Bayformers. And that's coming in 2021, and we're really looking forward to, you know, what we're going to do there. I think that sounds like, so far it sounds like we've been kind of firing some cylinders, and there's been some good discussions there about what we're going to do. So I think everyone's going to really enjoy that. And then hopefully it'll lead to more collaboration and bring us ever closer to when all are one, as they say at the end of the movie. I hope, I don't know if that'll ever be 100% achievable, but if we can get ourselves 75% there, hey, it's better than nothing.
Absolutely.
100%.
I think, you know, like, that is the main thing. It's like, till all are one. That's the mantra of Transformers. You know, this community needs to work together. And I think, like, working with the Bayformers, that's really exciting news. Just psyched to see what you guys are going to be doing in the new year. You know, like, I'm still digesting Wave 1, but I'm equally excited for Wave 2. So, you know.
And we're really looking forward to bringing you guys Wave 2, because we've got some really good ideas, and we've already got some fun things designed that we're already kind of alpha testing. You know, because, you know, it's hard to keep once you start making something, once you start creating, it's hard to stop. So we're definitely we've definitely the creative juices are still flowing, and I've heard the requests. I've heard a Blitzwing.
Yes.
Maybe there's already something brewing there. Maybe.
And like I said on the Matter for Web episode, Wes, I'd love to playtest it and spoil the crap out of it. You know, just wink, wink, nudge, nudge, smiley face. Like, I would be so happy, because I think everyone in my meta, it didn't come across because that was when my channel was just starting. But when we were building our meta for when we were playing this at Derby in the UK, everyone was like, "So Lee, Blitzwing," and I was like, "You know what? That's my trigger word. Don't even talk to me." They just took a big giant dump on that purple guy. I'm not happy about it. And then everyone's like, "Oh, you got to get it. You got to try it. You try it out." And I did get it, and I tried it out, and it did work a little bit. But
it was
just sad.
He's actually pretty good in a sealed format.
Oh gosh, he was bonkers. But when were you ever going to pull him, Wes? Probably.
Well, in one of our tournaments, that's exactly what happened. In a sealed tournament.
Oh, really?
In a sealed launch tournament, someone got a Blitzwing, and they crushed it hard with that Blitzwing for most of the tournament, until they ran into the guy who pulled Dreadwing in the sealed portion.
Oh God, can you imagine that in the seal? Oh.
Yeah, he pulled both halves, and it was just like, that's just not fair.
You know, thank you, listeners, for asking all those questions. There's one last question, I think, that I'll ask. This was pitched to me after I sent the stuff through to you earlier today. It's from the chap that actually won my 100th episode giveaway, Harassis Rodney from Wales.
Oh, okay.
His question was, will the ARK be making a set based on the War for Cybertron / Fall of Cybertron computer games?
I'm not going to say no. And speaking of, the Vamp Arc ribbon actually was birthed from the War for Cybertron game. So the original Vamp Arc ribbon was the Energon harvester from the War for Cybertron video game, and we wanted to find some analog to it in the current continuity of what they had, and the closest I could find was the Vamp Arc ribbon from the Autotocracy series, and that was later brought back in the later series. The picture of it is when Prowl pulls it out of mothballs to use it. So we kind of already have a little. We kind of designed one card from the video game. So I mean, it's not to say there won't be more.
No, I think also Wizards also with Siege 1 and 2 kind of touched on the whole war for Cybertron thing, didn't they? You know, the whole planet encompassing war. So, you know, yeah, thanks everyone for your questions.
Yes, thank you. It was a pleasure answering them.
So yeah, I think that's it, Wes. So, you know, thank you for your time today. It's been an absolute pleasure to meet you and speak to you in person. I've had a blast. I've had an absolute blast tonight. I've laughed so hard.
Yeah, man.
I've had a great time too. It was great meeting both of you guys, and I hope we'll be able to speak in the future.
100%. There we go. 100%.
100%. I feel like we just need to have Matafa and Wes on the same episode and hear the banter. I think it needs to happen.
Sure.
Let's do that. Let's do that. Wave 2 of the ARK. Let's have a exclusive coup de grace. For One Shall Stand, One Shall Fall. We want a double whammy interview with you and Matafa to talk about the set.
There we go. We'll go with that. We'll go with a web exclusive hilariousness. It'll be fun. But no,
right, good.
just to reiterate, Wes, thank you very much for taking time out your day for being a part of this podcast, and you know, hopefully the community have been, appreciated all your answers, and you know, you've teased quite a bit of what you're working on. So I'm not gonna lie, the gentleman behind this microphone is smiling from ear to ear like the Cheshire Cat. I'm super excited. I'm glad we got to talk a little bit about the raid and the whole design aspect of that. That's super exciting, and I feel a lot of people need to go and just download and try it and print and play and try it because it's so much fun. You guys did a smashing job. So before we end the podcast, Wes, is there anything you want to talk about, anything you want to promote or anything like that, or how people can get in touch with you and all that jazz?
You can find me on the ARK Facebook group. One of the, you know, all the admins are members of the ARK group, so if you need to get in touch with me, that's a great place to do so. Beyond that, hey, if you haven't checked out the ARK, you know, go download it. You know, you never know. You might find something you really like. Beyond that, I just want to say, you know, keep on the lookout for more videos from Powered by Primus. The continued adventures, of course, of Blues on Attack and Wreck and Rule from all my fellow content creators that are continuing to make this game live on past its initial demise. But we are rising again. So thank you guys. I'm really glad you had me on. I really appreciate it. And you know, anytime you want me back, just ask.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Will do, man. Thank you so much. Thank you.
If you ever have a lore question, just ask.
I know. Okay, we might have to have Wes's lore corner. Maybe that might have to be a segment. Maybe I just love it. Even though we don't know about Menasau's sword, that's all good. That's all. We talked about other things.
That's the mystery of
that's the mystery,
Transformers
the
universe.
Ongoing mystery. Yeah, it's like yeah. It's where does it come from? We don't know. But anyway, this is a goodbye from me, Lee.
And a goodbye from me, Dave. Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll see you on the next episode of One Shall Stand, One Shall Fall.
One shall stand, one shall fall.